can't.
Hey, Ryan, unmute your audio.
Oh, okay. It's just me.
Michelle, are you ready to go?
I can hear you now.
Okay,
Hey.
yeah. I was just talking to fill time, so I'm ready if you are.
Okay, cool. Well, we're going to start at 7:10.
Oh, then I started a broadcasting. Should I unbroadcast?
Do it. Yeah. It's just us anyway. There's 20 people actually in the broadcast.
Oh, okay.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Let's go to the 22 attendees. Hi, everyone. Where's everyone coming in from? I think all of us are coming in from LA. Is everyone
I'm in
coming in
LA.
from LA, or are you coming in from Florida? Fullerton. Oh, we got Fullerton in the house. LA. Where in LA specifically? What neighborhood? Because we need to represent. I'm in West LA. Got Hollywood. We got K-Town.
Los Feliz.
Santa Monica, Glendale,
Santa Monica.
downtown, Los Feliz, Las Vegas. Maribel coming in hot from Las Vegas.
Nice.
Angela from Burbank. Yeah, Maribel's coming in really hot. Someone's self-quarantining in Chattanooga, but from LA originally. Agora Hills, Boston, Boyle Heights. Nice work, Claire, coming in from the East Coast. It's late there. And Michelle, obviously, coming in from Santa Monica. All right. Who here in the chat meditates? Does anyone here meditate? I'm curious, like if y'all meditate or if you're curious about meditating, or if you're here just to sort of dip your toe in the water, learn more about it. Because this is going to be all about wellness, meditation, and figuring out, how to make ourselves living a healthier lifestyle. Looks like everyone here meditates sometimes twice a day, not as routine as they'd like. And everything else I do, but not regularly, wanting to learn more about it. Okay, cool. Well, it sounds like we got some experts. We got some people that are not experts that want to do more meditation. Everyone here wants to learn, which is the most important thing. And that's cool. So, Michelle, we are recording. Angelica says, in and out regularly, would love to have a routine. Michelle's totally new to meditation. So yeah, we have people from all over the spectrum, and you're in for a treat. We have some experts here. I've taken classes. One of the reasons why I chose the people on this panel is because I've taken all their classes in real life, in IRL, in person. And we have people proficient in breathwork, in sound healing, and traditional meditations. I thought it was about the business of meditation and wellness. Michelle, you're right. It is about the business as well. We're getting into it. I'm just getting a feel for the room right now to make sure that people can understand, where we're coming from. But yeah, we'll be talking about the business and how people got started and hearing more about the personal stories of all of our guests. Michelle is a hypnotherapist, which is cool. Well, welcome for that. But yeah, the idea here is to get a bunch of smart minds on the webinar. For backstory, this originally was going to be a live event downtown in Los Angeles, but our dear friend COVID-19 came into town, and after everyone is now self-quarantined in our houses, we switched it to a digital format. And also, we are one of the first, I think maybe the first General Assembly group to actually go online. So this is a bit of a test, but also a success story, because we've all managed to somehow get in here with our microphones working and sounding goods and going back and forth. We'll have 3 great guests tonight that I'll introduce in a minute. Yeah, you're welcome, Tala, for switching virtually, because I actually had emailed Shanilla and Eric, who are on the panel, before we had invited Megan. And I said, hey, I don't know if you want to do this, but we're thinking about doing this virtually. And they each got back within an hour saying they wanted to do it. So everyone here is ready to deliver on this virtual presentation. I think that if I owned Zoom right now, I'd be a very smart person, because Zoom is probably going through the roof with sales, because everyone I know is switching to online webinar formats for all work. So yeah, we're going to join this panel in 5 minutes and get going. I guess, yeah, Michelle, what do you want to do for the next 5 minutes? You want to pause it or?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, we can pause this for a second. Let's give, for those of you who are joining and might need to jump out, we are going to be recording this whole webinar and we'll send it to you in a follow-up email. So, and then share it with your friends.
All right, we're good to go.
All right. So welcome. My name is Michelle. I am the local marketing and events producer at General Assembly. Welcome to General Assembly's temporary campus, your home. Normally, I would let everyone know what the Wi-Fi password is and where the bathroom is, but I'm hoping you guys know that already. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of thank you all for coming to today's webinar and really taking the initiative during this kind of period of social distancing to not just isolate yourself, but really taking the steps to learn a new skill, network with people in the area, and just kind of meet some really cool, interesting folks in the meditation and wellness industry. I feel like now it's just more critical than ever to kind of connect and engage with our community. So just want to say kudos to you for joining us. We're super thrilled to have you here. For those of you who are new to General Assembly and our events, General Assembly is a tech education school for adults. We specialize in training folks in software engineering, data science, UX design, marketing, business. We also host a ton of personal and professional development courses. We've now grown to 33 campuses in the US and internationally. We have officially flipped all of our programming, so that's classes, events, and workshops online from now until the foreseeable future, hopefully not too far in the future. But if you have any questions about our remote offerings, kind of like the format and how it works, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm going to send everyone who registered for this webinar a $25 promo code to take a class online. I hope you enjoy it tonight. I'm really excited. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Williams.
Thank you, Michelle. Everyone keep it going for Michelle. Keep it going. That was a great intro, you know. I used to do stand-up comedy, and the key to a good stand-up when you start your set is you always say, give it up for the comedian that came before you. And so that was a really good opener, Michelle. You also made this beautiful card right here everyone's looking at. My name is Ryan Williams. I actually teach a lot with General Assembly. I have a digital marketing boot camp next week I'm teaching, as well as a copywriting course. And I also host live podcasts and do events around the future of emerging industries. And so this is our first of, we have a couple now in the works with General Assembly to talk about the future of meditation and wellness. And my background's in marketing. I used to work at Disney and I worked at some startups in Los Angeles. I'm based in West LA, and I've been hosting a podcast, about 100 episodes that I just recently rebranded to health and wellness. This is my new logo, actually. It's called Unstuck. And I found that it was really hard for me to talk about mental wellness on my podcast. I do episodes on depression or anxiety, and I get a lot of feedback from people that they really loved it, but then I also get feedback from people that they didn't know how to process it properly. And so I'm realizing that as I go through my own journey in life, that I want to make meditation, wellness, and subjects like depression more accessible to people. So tonight I wanted to start off, we're going to have three, I'm going to call them expert panelists. They probably would not like me using that word because who wants to be called an expert? That's a lot of pressure. But I've taken classes from all these people. Okay, we have one expert here, two experts. Eric's a double expert. And so we're going to talk to each of these people individually for a minute, and then we're going to do a group interaction at the end. So I'm going to introduce everyone up front right now. So we have Shanila Satar, and she's a wellness activator, a researcher, speaker, and she's the founder of the Always Play Studios based in Los Angeles. She uses ancient modalities with a modern twist to balance for the everyday person and works with group on anxiety, stress, depression, mood imbalance, and sleep troubles. And she mixes the science with the woo in helping people. And overall, she's worked with different Los Angeles groups to get grants to bring the art of sound baths and breath work as emotional mental wellness tools. And so she's the first person I'll be talking to. And then the next after that is Eric Melgren, who is a sound. He's actually a former music executive. He worked in the entertainment industry for many years, and he started doing some therapy work and nutritional therapy, and then found different holistic therapy treatments. And now he is a sound guided meditation leader in the Los Angeles community. He has a whole bunch of instruments and singing bowls that he uses to bring people calming, stress, and relaxation. And he's a very big proponent of mental health and calming people down and helping them be more focused at life and at work. So we'll be talking to him second tonight. And then the third person is Megan Monahan. She's the author of a new book that came out recently called Don't Hate, Meditate. And she's been learning to meditate actually since 2009 at the Deepak Chopra Center. She worked there after becoming a certified instructor. And now she teaches all over Los Angeles and is trying to create a realness for meditation in the modern day. And so you notice one consistent theme of all these panelists tonight that we'll be working with is that we're all going to be pretty much talking about this in terms that you can understand easily, making this accessible, making this approachable, and making this real. So we're making this hopefully go more mainstream to people to understand, because we have a lot of people that are in meditation, experts. We have some newbies here and everyone else in between. We'll also be talking about some of their personal journeys for how they broke into the industry and the business of this all in the long run. So yeah, we're gonna get going. Michelle, yeah, I think we can kill the screen sharing for now because everyone can see our pretty faces now in the flesh. So Shanilla, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hi. So what you call yourself a wellness activator, a researcher, a speaker. Like the question I have for you is, how do you explain what you do to like your friends you grew up with or people you meet, or you're at a coffee shop, and what do you say, you do as your profession?
Yeah, so I describe what I do as kind of this integrative wellness space. So I work with people's emotions, physical health, mental health, and spiritual health. So looking at people in a holistic way. And the way that I do it is through breathwork, sound baths, energy healing. And I also coach people who are trying to kind of break into the industry as well. So depending on what modality we're talking about, we could go deeper into, I'll explain that way.
How did you start working in this industry?
Yeah, so I would say it was about maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. Actually, my background was as a researcher. I was looking at what keeps girls interested in math and sciences, actually, and going all over the country, doing research, looking at all the data. And what I found was I was in burnout mode. I think, a lot of us experience that. We're kind of on autopilot. We're just on burnout mode. We don't have self-care practices. And when we hear meditation, at least for myself, I used to think it's like, you got to go sit in some, cave for 30 years and then like come to your enlightenment, and like a fly flies to your face, it flies to your face and it doesn't bother you because you're so zen.
Right.
And then on the other hand, there's like this fast and trendy kind of wellness scene, which is also what I stereotypically thought was like the wellness scene. And for me, I didn't have a practice at all. Like I didn't know how to meditate, I didn't know how to take care of myself, I didn't know how to have nutritional practices, I didn't have emotional balances, nothing. And I pretty much just went until my body's like, yo, look, like you're not okay right now. So insomnia, stress, depression, mood imbalances, a lot of gut health issues, all just started to show up at the same time. And I was basically like, wait, what do I need to do in order to slow this down? And at that time, I kind of happened upon something called sound baths. And I don't know how familiar people are with sound baths, but it's basically using different sound vibrations and frequencies that help you get to states of relaxation. And it gets you to a state of meditation without you being able to, be a professional meditator, basically. It's kind of like the cheater's way to meditate. And so when I first experienced these little modalities, when I started to practice a little bit of breathing techniques, learning how to slow down my system, I was like, whoa, what the hell is this? Like,
yeah.
It's not something I even conceived I could feel,
Yeah.
And so from then on, once I started to implement a little bit of
How many years ago was that?
This was about only 2.5 years ago. Yeah, so I started to just use it for myself before I had any kind of business around it, before I was teaching anybody or holding classes or workshops. I was basically just using a little Tibetan bowl that I would just ding in the middle of the day when I'm just like, okay, I don't know how this is calming me. I don't know what is happening, but I feel more relaxed. It's just like taking a moment to kind of just slow down, mindfully slow down. And then I started to do it as I was going to sleep. I'm like, okay, I'm going to just ding my bowl like at nighttime. And then I'm going to just ding it a couple of times before, as I wake up. And I noticed that having just even this like small little practice, not like setting outside an hour to go meditate, you know, not having like a whole practice, not having like my altar space or whatever. It's just like a little 2 seconds of your life just spending it. I started to actually notice a lot of my anxiety and stress kind of calm down. And I was finding that I was less reactive during the day. I was less like more mindful. I was just more mindful and going about my day, being able to react, be able to teach in the places, be able to talk to other people in different way. And just my mood was balancing out just through this one little practice. Then I'm like, hey, wait a second, let me show my friends, because I'm noticing like my friends are kind of irritated or they're stressed and they have busy lives and we're just like, go. I'm like, all right, listen to this little ding. And I would just like, ding it to them. And they're like, I don't know what happened. We don't know. And, you know, we're scientists. So we're kind of like always trying to.
Is that your background is science? Is it with your research?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, we're always trying to find like a linear logical way to explain what we're experiencing. And so my mind for the first time is basically like, what am I feeling rather than what is my mind asking me to think? What is this, you know, what is this disconnect? My body's feeling a certain way. I know I'm experiencing a different, I'm having a different experience than I've ever been used to, because now I'm not trying to process what I'm experiencing through my mind. I'm kind of just feeling it into my body. And as I went and felt more of the slowness, the slowing down, the integration of, you know, just taking a couple moments, taking deep breaths, taking, you know, a few moments to just ding a little Tibetan bowl, I found like everything in my life was shifting, every single thing. And
how was it breaking into becoming a teacher after having a science background? Because I feel like a lot of, like, I look at meditation teaching and I'm like, that sounds so cool. It looks so glamorous. You get to talk to a bunch of people. You seem like you're this, you know, very smart person and controlling your body and helping people heal and giving people a chance to heal their bodies. And like, what was it like transitioning from a more traditional research driven career into actually, you know, becoming someone in the industry?
Yeah, you know, it really relates to that part of what I'm talking about, of being able to feel into what it is that I was experiencing. So, you know, like there's a few different identities at this time I'm kind of like fighting against. Here's like the scientist brain, and here's like the woo brain, and then here's like, you know, this other identity. And what helped for me is that as soon as I integrated all those different components and understood that this is like what helps me in every aspect of my integrative wellness, it was easy. It wasn't like fighting. It wasn't fighting different parts of myself or fighting different parts of my brain and arguing with each other. It's just like, wow, this is, and the more that I embodied, the easier it was to just give my offerings to other people. I'm like, hey, friends, how do you want to experience this with me? Hey, you know, bigger group of friends, do you want to experience this with me? Hey, community, do you want to experience this with me? And the more that I practiced it, just from a casual place, and at the same time, I was going to get trained in different places. And
like how do you get trained in this? Like what kind of work do you do?
So depending on what it is that you'd like to learn, for example, I train
like for breathwork. So I've taken your breathwork class. I thought it was remarkably profound. And can you just actually explain what breathwork is?
Yeah. So breathwork is, for anybody who's not familiar, breathwork is different styles of breathing that help you regulate your body in certain ways. And it helps you achieve different altered states of consciousness where you can basically unblock anything in your body that's kind of keeping you stagnant. So the science of the breath work is that we're moving around energy in the body, activating our nervous system. We're changing up different systems in our body that regulate our heart rate, our respiratory system, our digestion, our blood pressure, our hormones, our serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, even trace amounts of DMT. And we're allowing those processes to help inform whatever it is that we're working on in our life at that time. And so what happens during breath work is that you might have a huge breakthrough because we're holding on a lot of stuff that is emotionally captured in the cellular level of our body. And so what breath work does is
like really stress, anxiety,
trauma, pain, anger, old emotions.
It's just like stuck in our body, like the energy.
So stuck. And you know, we at a human level understand that we process emotions physiologically in our body. We have the linguistic cues that kind of give us that information. Like we say we have like a heaviness on our shoulder or a weight on our back or a heartache. We don't feel a heartache on our elbow. We feel
right.
that heart universally, regardless of what language, regardless of what culture. Heartache is felt over here. You know?
Can I ask people in the comments, has anyone here done breath work before, or anyone focused outside of just traditional meditations? Camilla is like the star student. She's already coming in here hot saying she's done breath work. I love that.
Nice.
Michelle. Okay. Oh, Angelica, Shanila is amazing.
Hi, Angelica.
You're getting a lot of love over here. Yeah. So some people have done it. For those that don't do it, you know, oh, Katerina goes once a week. So we got some early adopter folks. For those people that maybe don't know what it is, like how would you define like the process of breath work?
Yeah, so I mean, this is not something like LA invented. It's not a modern like technique or anything. It's existed forever, and different cultures, all the, you know, baptism is actually a form of breath work. They used to dunk people underwater, and people would hold their breath and have a near-death experience, and then it would give them this rebirthing sensation. And so it's a practice that's been practiced forever and forever and forever. So the way that we kind of modernize it is, so you're breathing in a specific way. There's different styles of breath work. Some are meant to activate your body. So this is when you're like, okay, I'm trying to work through some shit. So I'm going to like really activate my system. I'm ready to face some, you know, some blockages. I'm trying to get a clarity. I'm trying to get a breakthrough. I'm
like
trying
people cry during it.
Cry, scream, yell, sweat, laugh.
Laugh.
It just depends on whatever energy is stuck in your body and the way that it's trying to leave. So you get to this like kind of this high space. You're kind of like in this ecstatic space because all the chemicals that are naturally formed in your body, all the serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, DMT, the natural feel-good hormones are sweeping through your body. So you have a breakthrough that way. And then the other styles of breath work are kind of more calming breath work, where you use for anxiety or stress or to regulate nerves, regulate panic attacks. Sometimes for trauma processing, you do a slower breath work, which is for slowing down your nervous system. So when you have a heart rate that's really just pumping up like this, you do slower breath that help your...
And the one you teach, what do you call the one that I took from you? Like you breathe in...
It's more of an activation breath work. So
activation.
Yeah, it's known under a lot of different trademarkable names, but it's a breath where you're basically circulating your breath. You breathe into your belly through your mouth, you breathe into your chest through your mouth, and you exhale all through the mouth.
So it's like 2 inhales
and 1 exhale. So inhale, inhale, exhale. And the way that what's happening during this is that you're kind of creating this circle. So inhale, inhale, exhale. Your body's creating this circle. And depending on how surrendered you are in this process, you can be like, oh, like your entire body is in it, or you can, you know, kind of take it slow and go with your own pace. And what's happening is that as you're moving around this energy, there's something called chi energy in your body. So the Tai Chi practitioner, Qigong practitioners in karate, martial arts, different dance styles, we all work with like energy in different way. And so there's energy that lives in your body as well. So when you breathe like that, anything that's been stagnant is actually starts to move away. And in that energy, there's so much greater conscious information where you're just like, dang, why was I, you know, random things start to come up for breath work. You're like, why did this random thing from like 6th grade?
It's crazy. Totally.
Come up for me. And what is it going to show me?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah, I've done it before, and I've had like pain in my head where I've had like stuck stress, and I could feel it kind of leave. And I've had like flashbacks to like when I was in 1st grade, and so it brings out. So what's it like on the other side of this when you're watching people cry or scream or heal effectively, feel better about themselves?
Yeah, you know, it kind of goes back to what you were asking before, like how do you become somebody who, you know, is able to like, you know, hold that space. And the thing is like, I don't know about any of the other panelists, I don't think we call ourselves the people who heal other people, you know, as healers or whatever category of, you know, labels we have. We're just people who facilitate space for other people, for people to be able to heal themselves. So we're space holders essentially. And so as others are crying, as they're going through their own emotional journeys, I know that it's not about me or my energy. It's about holding safe space for people to be able to go through this cathartic process. We do a lot of screaming, we do a lot of crying. There's different styles of meditations that are forgiveness based. We do a lot of and healing your inner child, talking about like, dang man, maybe you weren't
it's like therapy in a way.
It is
But
absolutely
like accelerated, because therapy, you talk about your problems and analyze yourself. I
yeah.
feel like this deals with your body and like helping it get over your problems.
Yeah, and it's also known as something called somatic healing. Soma literally meaning body. And what happens is all the information that we're holding in our body starts to get released. So you're able to achieve access to your deeper subconscious. So like all the little programmings that we have in the back of our mind. Like I said, random thing from sixth grade might come up, and you're like, why is this showing up? But something might have happened in sixth grade where there was a moment of rejection or a moment of insecurity, and you as a child learned how to show up with that insecurity for the rest of your life. That's how you don't let people get close to you. You don't have friends who you don't trust people. You don't have blah, blah, blah. And you have to undo all of that programming that you experienced as a child. And sixth grade is probably still too old. Like it's like 6 years old, 4 years old, like that kind of programming happens.
Powerful.
We're super, super young. And breathwork is a way to kind of get to that space where you're like, I don't really know what I need to see. Sometimes you have some kind of awareness through therapy or other form of wellness and well-being tactics that you kind of have like some kind of awareness, but sometimes it's so deep-seated. Getting an access to that altered state of consciousness gives you that clarity. It's that aha moment. And it's usually nothing like super profound. It's not like a new thing. Is you're just like, oh, right. Like that veil is kind of, that curtain just gets moved around. So you're just like, wow, I just have clarity around things that I never knew I needed.
Well, we have people in the chat who've said they've done it during sound baths. Michelle uses it in hypnosis. Yeah. Sally says she did transformational breathing years ago. Who here wants to try it? In the chat. So Ryan Lewis says he's interested in it. I feel like a lot of people living in LA, we have Maribel says, let's go. Definitely. So yeah, any recommendations for people here? It's mostly LA, but even stuff online, resources.
We do virtual breathwork sessions. You can also have guided breathwork sessions through YouTube. There's unplug.com. You can book virtual sessions on there. There's definitely a lot of people who offer this online. But if as the virus like slows down and whatnot, then you can find yourself to get to a class, because there's something about that group energy with the breathing energy of people in the same space with the intention of healing, with the intention of like really putting in the work. Sometimes it is hard to like do the work yourself. It is nice to kind of have a coach and have
when someone's like screaming next to you, letting all their stuff out, you get motivated to scream louder. And
you're like, I scream louder than you know.
Yeah, no, I'm going to take you down with my scream, right? And then their scream keeps you going, and then they're laughing a second later.
Yeah, and it's
beautiful.
All about safety. Like this healing is all about safety. Wellness, meditation is all about your own personal safety, and it's about just expanding beyond what you find comfort in, beyond what you know, and just allowing yourself to surrender just a little bit more and tuning back into clues that you have in your body. So your breath, your emotions, your spiritual wealth, your physical fitness, all of those things are that integrative outlook.
Cool. Well, thank you. So we're going to move along to Eric next. Shanilla, give it up for Shanilla. Everyone give her some claps in the comments, because that was great. That was super informative. And you have such great energy around it. Angelica says the way you go deep with the practice is unlike anything else.
Yeah,
thank you. Loved it. Hope to meet you soon. People want to meet you in person. I mean, this is good. We're trying to get different modalities here. So Shanilla does sound healing and breath work. And I thought we'd start with breath work, since everyone's a little stressed right now with the Rona around us. Everyone's feeling a little more intense. And so we're going to segue now into Eric Melgren, who is a sound healing leader in Los Angeles as well. I've taken his class. And Eric, I could definitely relate to most people's stories about kind of reaching a breaking point in your life with anxiety, stress. Shanilla's talked about like hitting a wall. Like you have an interesting story too. You worked in the music industry, which is incredibly competitive, stressful, intense in Los Angeles. And now here you are playing Tibetan bowls for a living.
Yeah, I did. Don't laugh, Megan. Her and I have a very inside joke as it comes to the music industry stuff. But yeah, I was working for a record label for quite some time, and I got burnt out as well. So like my story is very familiar to Shanilla's. Working in that industry is very stressful. And I kind of hit a breaking point, got really burnt out, kind of didn't know which way to go. I just kind of felt like I was very much boxed in. And so from there, I took the extra steps to go into therapy. So I went to start to see an intuitive healer. And from there, doing all of the work on myself led me to start taking the path of the health and wellness. And so through that work I was doing on myself with my teacher, it took me to nutritional therapy certifications, energy work, all sorts of different things that sort of started to accumulate to the tool belt of things that I do now.
And so I guess the question next is, like, how do we stop people from, like, we all reach breaking points. I feel like that's what, like, the common theme is sort of like with me as someone who's taking classes from you all in the industry. It's sort of, I feel like as a culture, we don't always think about preventative measures as much.
Yeah.
We're more reactionary. So can you talk a little bit more about sound healing and, how it does help, like, scientifically us process? And I want to ask a question real fast. Who here has done a sound healing bath in the chat? And who here wants to do one? Because it's going to help us form the questions here. Oh, Angelica's done one with Eric, it sounds like. Oh, everyone loves them. Oh, everyone loves sound baths. All right. It sounds like this is more accessible to people, right?
Yeah, I call it like kind of tangible. Um, I was working with a doctor who used to say meditation before medication. So kind of like how, you talk about preventative measures. And when I teach my classes and I do my workshops, whether it's at a corporate or if, I'm at Equinox or in one of the studios, you'll often hear me talk about not just the modality of sound baths, but all of the different modalities that are out there to help with your stress, your anxiety. And whether that's float tanks, sound baths, breath work, meditation, anything that works for you to help relieve that stress and anxiety. Because through those courses that I was taking, even in nutritional therapy, it was when I was taking that course, the first thing that really sort of flipped my switch is noticing how stress inhibited so many of our functions. And so that was sort of when the light bulb turned on for me. I was like, well, you can't really, what are you going to do about stress? And this is before I knew about sound baths. And then I went to the Integratron in Joshua Tree, which is very well known for doing sound baths out there. And I remember walking
Can you
out.
explain that? It's like this huge, like,
Yeah,
shape.
well, it's a location out in the middle of Joshua Tree that has a bunch of things about it. There's a lot of stigma around it, why it was built, where it was built, the whole bit. What I like to talk about is how the room is a perfectly acoustically built room. And I first came to know of it because Anthony Bourdain actually went out there with one of the guys of Queens and they did a piece on it. And I often tell people when you go do sound baths there, make sure you walk to the middle of the room and say something or sing something because it's like the perfect vocal booth. Jason Mraz even went in there and did some stuff because the sound is so beautiful. So if you think sound baths are intense in general, imagine going to, the Integratron and it's super intense. And I walked out of there and I've just never felt so light in my life. I mean, it really, that was the major light bulb where I was like, I have to bring this to people. I have to, because this can help. And it helped me immensely and started to sort of drive and pave my path.
And so what instruments do you play?
In general?
Yeah. Well, in general, we know you're a jack of many trades, but
Yeah.
what instruments do you play, like, during, like, can you paint the picture of a sound bath? Like, we were going to
Yeah,
have you
so
play
I
something, but
actually,
it's hard to do that over video.
yeah, I actually don't use Tibetan bowls. I just use crystal quartz bowls. So it's a mineral infused with glass. And then I have a little pan drum, which is a metal instrument. I have a buffalo drum. I have a sea drum. I have some koshi chimes. I have a rain stick. And then I've just invested in a didgeridoo and a little Native American flute and then a hang drum. So I'm still learning some. I'm better at others. But yeah, it's for me, I've started playing guitar when I was 17. So I love to just pick up instruments and try to learn how to play them. So that's kind of like where that's all come from. So it's sort of just been in my blood.
And what are some of the benefits that people tell you they get from going to sound baths?
Relaxation, again, I can echo what Shanila said, is, a lot of, again, what I talk and teach about as I go. I say that this is a relaxation experience, and that is really my main goal. And I often say, I hope that you're leaving just a little bit lighter walking out than when you did walking in. Because again, it's all about flipping that nervous system from a stimulated state down into what's called the rest and digest state. And that's where your most optimal amount of healing occurs, not just in your body, but your mind as well. And the frequency and vibration, when I say it's tangible, it's because you can actually feel those vibrations going through your body, right? And so you have a physical effect after a sound bath, and you get the benefits of your brain waves slowing down into that nice little pocket, that theta state, where your body can actually do what it's supposed to do, and that's to heal and fight off infection, which now, especially in this day and age of keeping your immune system up, it's pretty important. I've seen a drastic change in my own health as it came to changing my diet and starting to meditate and attend sound baths and do float tanks. It was a massive shift.
Yeah, I definitely felt like, Angelica's saying his music background really shows through the sound baths. They flow and tell a story and are so relaxing. Well, I agree, but they're also stressful, right? I feel like there's points of tension in sound baths deliberately that conjure up things in your body that maybe I get triggered sometimes during sound
Yeah.
baths, and then I have to take care of myself. And so sometimes people feel like, sound baths could be intense. So
They
what do you
can't
say
be.
about the overall like story about the music and the ups and downs?
Well, that's the experience, right? And so you're probably never going to experience a sound bath the same way every single time, because you're always going in there with something different. You may have some dysfunction going on in some body or some trauma that's really trying to get out. I think some of the most powerful sound baths are ones I do right after a breathwork class. And so people that leave breathwork and come into my sound bath, because during breathwork, they're pushing out all of this stuff that's stuck, all the energy, all the vibrations that's stuck in your cells. Then you come in for a sound bath, and then I can really dial you all the way down and get you into that theta state, that rest and digest parasympathetic state, and allow your body to just relax. And then,
Then you go home,
yeah,
go to bed,
yeah,
and have a beautiful night's sleep.
totally. Hopefully, yeah, for the most
Um,
part.
and so, what's it like teaching? And because you're not receiving it, you're putting yourself
Yeah,
out there,
yeah.
like, but you're obviously feeling the effects of it, right? As a
Yeah, I
byproduct.
feel slightly buzzy after classes, but since I'm not shutting off my motor functions, right? I'm fully present. And how I could kind of relate it to is, when musicians say that they're like in a groove, right? And they're like in that space where they're feeling the music and it's just like they're in it. That's what I'm trying to recreate being behind my instruments. I'm trying to feel out the room and just sort of move where the room intuitively kind of takes me. So, that being said, I don't ever really play the same thing twice, although I may mimic some things here and there. I just kind of, gauge on the energy of the room and go from there.
Well, Maribel's saying spirit energy is what you're talking about.
Yeah, a lot
Um,
of people have a lot of terms for it, so yeah.
and what do you think about kind of the meditation industry in general? Because I feel like, it's just about getting healthy. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of like, Shanila talked about the scene of meditation, and sort of like, there's a lot like, what do you think are this, like, how do you think it could become more mainstream? Like, how do you think more cities would have sound baths?
Well,
And
honestly, what I have seen is the most powerful thing is word of mouth. Honestly, when people go take a sound bath and how they're like, oh my God, have you ever tried this? That's the most effective thing. What I'm trying to do is reach people that know there are health benefits to meditation, but either are intimidated by the word or intimidated sort of because they don't know what to do, and it's just not their sort of culture to just jump into it. And so one of the things that I'm trying to do is get out in front of those people and educate and teach which are corporate workshops a lot of the times, because these folks are under these stress environments. They don't have time to go off into a meditation studio, nor do they have the discipline to sit down even for a minute on their own and do it at home. And so when you have somebody come in and be like, hey, listen, here are the benefits, here are the modalities, it doesn't have to look like this. There's a few or many
Right.
different ways that you can get the benefits of this. Because for me, and a lot of, again, what I teach and educate about is being proactive with your health, right? And what I've come to learn is this work is so powerful to being proactive with your health. Right now in society, everything's reactive. You can even look at what's going on right now. Everything's reactive. We need to start getting proactive, and this is one of the big keys in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. And to your point about, working through corporations or finding the time, like I have 2 young kids and they go to bed 8:30. I go over to Unplug, which is this place. I do your sound bath at 9 o'clock to 10, and I just make a habit out of it. But not everyone has that luxury. And so, because we live in a city where it's accessible.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what someone asked on the chat. Muia, do sound baths travel through apps? She's guessing some frequencies our devices cannot be used to create with sound in the instrument. Is that true?
So here's the deal with the apps is I look at it like a 2D experience versus a 3D experience, right? And so if you're listening to a sound bath, whether it's on an app or even on YouTube, when you're listening to certain frequencies just to help you calm down, it's all auditory, right? Which is great. If that's what you can get, it's kind of like I can't leave the house, but I worked out in my apartment. You know what I mean? The 3D version, which is in person, it just has that extra dimension where you're actually feeling the vibrations in the room. These bowls, these instruments, you feel the vibrations. They're going through you. They're swirling around the room. They're sitting in the room. And so you have that physical effect. And so my response to that is get whatever you can get. But I mean, if it's accessible and whenever we can start being sociable again, that's where you can really, get the full capacity of the work.
I like that. Get what you can get. Like,
Yeah.
If that's what you have, it's a mobile app on YouTube, then
Get what you can get.
yeah. Cool. Well, thank you. Give it up for,
You're
Eric,
welcome.
everyone. Give it up for Eric, give him some love, some snaps, some claps in the comments. We'll see. Shanola got a lot of love, so I hope there's some left over for you.
Dun, 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 dun.
Wah, wah, wah. All right. You're getting some loves and some awesomes. Okay. Oh, that's Shanilla. She's just chalking you up. Cool. Well, our final guest, and we're going to do a segment with Megan and then open it up for questions and have a more free-flowing conversation, is Megan. Megan's the author of Don't Hate, Meditate. And one of your key points is that you want to make meditation more accessible to people. And so what's your background? How long? You said it's been since like 2009 you've been meditating. Is that right? How long have you been a meditator or just not even working as one? Can you hear her? We can't hear you. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we're good.
Oh, great news. So yeah, I've been meditating since for 12 years. This is my 12th year as a meditator. I've been teaching for 10 of those years, roughly 9 of those years. And I, not unlike everyone here, also used to work in the music industry and had a very different life pre-meditation. And it's the singular thing that has changed my life more than anything else.
And so people ask me all the time how meditation changes my life or makes it better or improves my life. And I say it impacts every single part of my life. What's it like teaching people? And like I was, talking to Eric about this, like, and seeing them get better or get more calm or get more stressed. Like, how is that as the actual instructor?
It's incredibly fulfilling when you feel connected to a sense of purpose, when that sense of purpose has guided you along your healing journey. And then when you get to share that, it's pretty much like the 360 experience of feeling, I think, fulfilled in every possible way. And, I consider it one of the greatest blessings of my life that this is what I get to do every day, that this is the conversation that I get to have with people, because it's such a privilege to, as Chandler was saying, to be a part of someone's path and to hold space for someone to remember their wholeness and to remember who they are.
And what do you think are the good skills or characteristics that you have, or that Eric or Shanila have? Like, what does it take to become good at meditation leading?
Like, as a teacher, I think it takes doing your reps.
Yeah.
I did a lot of reps before I started really teaching. I was a very immersed student for a long time before I started teaching, and since then have just taught over and over and over to really discover my voice. I think, all of the teachers that I revere greatly, of course, were influenced by their teachers and their lineages, but I always really find myself drawn to teachers that have discovered their own voice and who have discovered what that is to translate, all these ancient teachings through their filter. Because that's really what you want, because anyone can quote all of the amazing sages that we've all learned from. Like, I always want to be with teachers that know what their voice is and know what their translation of those teachings are.
And what do you say? So you talk about like translating and taking like these ancient work and making it accessible to people. What is your style? Like, what type of, for people that don't know anything about meditation, like how do you guide a class? Like, what does it look like? And what's your philosophy?
Yeah. So I was initiated into Deepak Chopra's lineage, which is a Vedic meditation lineage based in India, not innately religious, although you can go into that sort of the philosophy of it.
Is Vedic a region?
Yes, partially. That encompasses certain areas of India, but more so the Vedanta teachings, which is this body of knowledge, thousands of years old in India.
Oh, cool.
And so my class always involved teaching Vedic mantras or Sanskrit mantras that carry an energetic significance to them, and that's the point of focus for the meditations that I teach.
And so, like, what's an example of a mantra that you would talk about or have people participate in?
One of my, like, an oldie but a goodie is So Hum. It's the one I talk about in my book. So hum, which represents the sound of your breath. So if I asked you to take a deep breath in and out through your mouth and then write down what that breath sounds like, you get so hum.
Okay.
It also distilled down to the essence I am.
Oh, cool. And
but
so
unlike the thought I am, so hum is in a dead language that you were not raised speaking. So it doesn't mean anything to your thinking mind, which is one of the real values in using mantras, is that you're giving your mind what it wants, which is a thought, but that thought doesn't mean anything. So you kind of get this mental neutral landscape to kind of rest in, because meditation is not about stopping your thoughts. It's the number one thing that I hear from people. I can't meditate. I have too many thoughts.
Right. Or like, I can't sit down with myself and do it. People say that a lot.
People say that a lot too. And those are the people that desperately need to start.
Yeah, right. And so you also use a lot of humor when you teach in the classes I've taken.
That's the thing, Ryan.
You what?
So I'm quite funny is the thing.
Well, that's the thing, right? And so I had to say it for you first before you could say it. And it's harder to be funny over Zoom too, because your quick lightning reflexes, are traveling on the internet speed, not real life. So how do you think people respond to humor and meditation? Because I feel like it sounds so serious. It sounds like a lot of work. Like if I talk to my friends about meditation, they think like, 45 minutes, but you try to bring a different element to it.
Yeah, it's very serious a lot of the time. And I don't know if it's the New Yorker in me or like the sarcastic part of me, but it doesn't have to be that serious. We're not meditating to get more serious.
Yeah.
If anything has changed since I started meditating, it's in my ability to not be so self-conscious and to be lighter and freer and more in like a really effortless expression of who I am. No one is needing to meditate to get more serious.
Right.
And if you look at the word like enlightenment, right, the word serious is not in there.
Right.
Is, and that's really what we're all trying to do through any of this work that's elevating our consciousness, is gently washing away the conditioning, the energetic residue that is weighing us down. that is
Right.
hearts down, that is constricting our mind. As you start meditating, you kind of rinse all that off little by little, and you become lighter.
Yeah, let's talk about like higher consciousness. Like you touched upon it. How do you explain that to like my brothers who don't even like the fact that I meditate and they think it sounds like a lot of work? Like kind of how we're all connected. You mentioned like I think a wholeness before as one of the words you used, or like how do you explain the fact that you're more connected if you can focus on yourself when you meditate?
So, and you can look at, the different layers of consciousness that are somewhat trackable with science. A lot of this does get into a more like woo-woo philosophical conversation about what is consciousness.
Right.
But but ultimately, you will start to feel more connected to yourself. And as you start to feel more connected to yourself, it's pretty hard not to feel more compassionate, more kind, more present with everyone and everything around you.
Right.
So when people say things like, oh, it makes you more compassionate and it makes you more patient and more responsive, those are all things that are very much happening. There are some things that meditation does at the level of your brain that changes how quickly, Eric was touching upon this, that changes how quickly you go into like a fight, flight, stress response. Yeah. More often than not, navigating a life through a space of restful awareness. And with that comes the ability to kind of notice between the stimulus and your response who you are and how you want to show up in the next moment. And I have rarely found, if I give myself a little bit of grace in between the moment that I get activated or triggered and how I respond, that I will respond as the better version of myself. Most people, if they have just a moment, are not going to choose to be terrible to either the person they're with or to themselves. And that awareness, we can call it consciousness, we can call it awareness, we can call it presence, we can call it a lot of different things, is kind of unavoidable. And that just becomes your new normal. And I will say that as a former, very effective, like cynical, jaded New Yorker, my go-to state for the first 24 years of my life was not one of like, let's look for the best that could happen. Let's lean into the opportunity here. Let's look at why this is happening for me, not to me. Like all of those things that are just so nauseating until you experience them. Those all started to come through meditation, not because that's who I innately was.
So what came through then? The fact that that wasn't you? That just
I washed away a lot of the conditioning that, that New York and my upbringing, shrouded me with.
Right.
And when we wash away that conditioning, we come back to who we were when we got here. And
Right.
none of us, when we were like 2 and 3 years old, were running around like with a victim mindset and filled with scarcity and constriction, or really reactive to what, that's why kids are so powerful, because they're present. Yeah. They're always leaning into bliss and this present moment, So that's who we all are just getting back to. It's not so much about becoming a different version of ourselves and just letting go of the parts of us that we are not.
Yeah.
So that we can be who we arrived here as.
I love that. Eric talked about corporations or companies bringing this through. Is there a way you teach differently to companies to make it more like plain speak? Because, it's not as spiritually woo woo.
Yeah, I'm pretty like unapologetically not that woo woo, even when I teach to I probably wouldn't use the word like innate wholeness to like a very buttoned up corporate group. So I definitely change a little bit of the languaging, but I think it's important. I think it's important to just be very real about all of this in this conversation with whoever it is.
And then how'd you like discover the cover or the title of your book? Why did you choose hate versus meditate?
Rhymes is the thing, and my publisher thought that if we put the word shit in the subtitle, that it would make it feel young and edgy. So that's where the subtitle came from. But no, the title, in all honesty, when I was working in music, when I first started meditating, I was at such a bottom. Physically, I was breaking down from stress, like losing non-vital organs, kind of breaking down from stress. And I used to wake up every day, and in a very like charmingly self-deprecating way, but really like not cute. I would wake up in the morning, and more often than not, I would say to myself, I hate my life. Like, what, I can't wait till I'm done with work. I can't wait till I'm back in this bed. I hate my life. And it was in, again, a very charmingly self-deprecating way, but that's also really sad.
Yeah. No.
And I looked at how many things pre-meditation I kind of had that lens towards, like, ugh,
Right.
or like, ugh, I hate. And I didn't feel filled with hate, you know, but I definitely had a negative perception. And one of the biggest things that meditation will do is flip that for you.
That's awesome. We actually have a question from Kate here. What do you think of Vipassana meditation retreats? Have you ever done one?
I think they're great. I have never done a Vipassana retreat. I've done silent retreats in other areas, but not Vipassana. But I think it's amazing. I think it's an amazing.
Can you explain what a silent retreat is and like what your experience was with it?
Yeah, it's really fucking quiet is the thing. It's essentially, it's not talking. So it's not talking, it's not communicating in any way. The meditation retreats that are silent that I've done and helped facilitate, you know, we invite you to wear like sunglasses. So you're not even really making eye contact.
Oh, wow.
You're not watching TV. You're not really reading anything unless it's a spiritual text or a text that reinforces whatever you're kind of diving into. There's usually time in nature. I mean, it's really.
So you're like gone for like 48 hours or a week?
I did one. Vipassanas are usually, I think it's either 3 days or 10 days, maybe 5 days or 10 days. The ones that I've done are more week long. But it's you just going within and removing all of the obstacles to you staying within.
Right.
Is what I would say.
It sounds painful.
It's pretty, it can be really intense. I would
Yeah.
say not something that you should do if you don't already have a meditation practice. Like that should not be your entryway into meditation. You should have a really solid practice before you do that. And just make sure that you're doing it with someone that is going to hold space for you, that knows what they're doing, that knows how to handle that for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And then we have Michelle, who actually works in the industry. She asks, how do you approach your corporate clients to facilitate group meditation?
How do I approach?
A professional question here. Trying to figure out how you get gigs.
Oh, like how? Oh, is that the question?
I think so, right? Doesn't it sound like it's a very polite way of asking how you get work? Is that right, Michelle? Yes.
Yeah.
Michelle's very, very well mannered over here.
That was very like politely.
Very meditative.
Money is what you're asking.
Yeah, abundance.
Exactly. I've really leveraged my relationships. So again, I used to work in entertainment and have a lot of those relationships still. So a lot of my business comes from, as Eric was saying, like word of mouth and people saying, you know, I have a girlfriend that works at Netflix and I gave a talk at Netflix because she works there and she reached out and was like, you should give a talk, you know. So a lot of it is like sourcing your network and like download all your emails out of Gmail and export them and categorize them into people that would definitely be interested in what you're doing now, might be interested and like have no idea what meditation or whatever the practices that you're teaching, and come up with like a different approach for all of them and let them know that this is what you're doing. You know, when I first started teaching a long time ago now, there weren't any meditation studios. There were yoga studios barely doing it, but it was definitely a whole new frontier. It's much easier now because it's such a mainstream thing and it's really having a moment. But yeah, come up with what your experience is, what you're going to teach and what you're going to share. Add as much value as you can to the experience with things like, I'm going to bring aromatherapy and I'll, give you a recording of the meditation after we're done. I mean, there's lots of little ways that you can make it tangible because again, meditation feels a lot like sitting and doing nothing unless you know all of the backstory. And then look at how you leverage all of your network first and then start to go broader.
All right. Cool. Great answer. Well, now let's just jump it up. We'll open up the questions, everyone. Michelle says, thanks, by the way. That was a great answer. And then Eric made a joke. You're in the music industry. He made that joke, Megan. I guess you mentioned it a couple times. I don't know. Tough crowd over here on these panelists, you know? So Claire is asking, what is the best way to deal with childhood trauma that comes into your awareness during meditation? And I would like to answer this question because I've gone through trauma in my life. And what I do is I bring a journal. Everyone who knows that I go to these classes, I often in my chair afterwards, even if I have crazy brain dump thoughts, I just journal about it. Sometimes I turn it into poetry, or I go home and I journal before I sleep or after, in the morning if it's before work, to try to get it out of my system. And then if I want to read it later, I can analyze it. But I'm a big proponent of journaling. But I open it up to the professionals here. Any thoughts about how to deal with childhood trauma when it comes into your awareness during meditation?
Yeah, I would just say if you're doing a sitting meditation, I mean, I can't speak because I'm not an expert in breath work or sound healing, but if you're in a sitting meditation and something comes through, the practice would be to notice the sensation, the image, the feeling, the thought, and then come back and then let it go and come back to the point of focus, which is either usually your breath or the mantra in my classes. If it's feeling overwhelming, it's always okay to like open your eyes for a minute, to look around, to re-ground yourself and re-anchor yourself. Maybe that's putting your palms face down on the ground, feeling the weight of your body grounded to the floor. But so it'd be one of those two things for me. Either
So
like
let it go and come back.
Yeah, acknowledge it, like let it go. Don't go into that analyzing mode, as you were saying, and then come back to your point of focus. If it's feeling really overwhelming, it's fine to kind of look around for a minute, take a deep breath, and then drop back in.
Yeah, that's great.
I definitely agree to just notice what the sensations are in your emotions, your physical body, your spiritual body, your energy. And if you can kind of push a little bit further to the point where you can kind of test the waters a little bit and pull back, go in, pull back, go in, and just like play with yourself of like your comfort level, because each time those stories and those visuals and those messages come through, you're going to be in a different place to receive them. So I also encourage people to have some kind of mantra to go back to, or some kind of affirmation. And one that I always love is to say, I am safe, I'm supported, I am safe, I am supported, knowing that these are just visions and messages that you're getting. It's not something you're experiencing again, even though your body kind of feels like you might be experiencing some old memory or some old thing that's coming up for you. So just reminding yourself, giving yourself that subconscious message, I am safe, I'm supported, I'm okay, I am safe, I'm supported, I'm okay.
Cool. Eric, do you have any thoughts?
I think you hit the nail on the head with the journaling. I often tell my clients when things come up, grab a pen and paper and write about it. Freestyle, like anything that comes up, and wherever it leads, just try to write faster than your thoughts come to you. Just whatever comes, just let it flow right through your hand, and ask yourself questions and see what pops up. And you can actually do a bit of your own therapy through that. Journaling is really powerful.
Cool. And then we have Camilla saying you can always do child work where you basically go back and parent your child self as a grown and wise adult you are. Understanding your little self needs to provide them the reassurance it's going to be okay. SW asks, can you heal trauma using meditation? We just sort of covered that. It sounds like yes, right? Because we didn't talk about healing. Anyone have any more thoughts about it, specifically the healing side of it?
Yeah, so parent-child work is kind of one of the meditations we do after breath work. Is this practice called Ho'oponopono, and it's this Hawaiian forgiveness prayer where the premises are, I love you, please forgive me, thank you, I forgive you. Okay, so that's the premises. So what we do around that practice is you can go to literally anything that is disturbing you in your past. So whether it's a parent relationship, a childhood relationship, a family relationship, you can actually go through this forgiveness practice saying, I love you, thank you, I forgive you, and basically release that way. And that inner child portion is transformative for a lot of people, because we're sometimes as adults waiting to hear things from other people that we didn't get to hear as a child. So doing this healing work while you're in that subconscious state, especially during breath work, especially during meditation, or especially during sound baths, can actually unlock some of the trauma that you hold subconsciously in your body.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then we have Justin saying the roots of meditation originate as part of a larger systems of practice and teaching. He's saying that mindfulness seems to have become secular and disconnected from those origins. Can you share what that means in your practice? Like, do you think we're disconnected from the roots of the larger practice of systems and teachings?
I've sort of come up with a little formula that sort of describes what my definition of mindfulness is, and it's the acronym MNDFL, right? So M is for meditation, which leads to natural healing, diet, fitness equals lifestyle. And so being mindful with yourself and how to find out how you can get the most optimal version of yourself. If you look at all of those components within that equation, you can actually figure out like, hey, how can I sort of be my best self and go down the path that is my greater good kind of path, and being proactive with your health and all of those things. So for me, that's what mindfulness means to me, and that's how I use it in my teachings and in my classes and when I work with people.
Cool.
I'll just
Anyone
add,
else have any thoughts?
I'll just add that there's a difference between, and this is confusing, but between being a mindful person, which is, kind of what Eric was speaking to, and having that awareness, that 360 awareness, and practicing a mindfulness based meditation technique. So the words are kind of being thrown out in the world right now as the same thing, and they're not. They're both amazing. Mindfulness based techniques usually have you anchor your awareness to your breath. Sometimes they come from a Buddhist tradition. Sometimes it's more of MBSR, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction. So there's a mindfulness method of practicing meditation, and then a mindful sort of mentality or mindset. So maybe that helps a bit.
Yeah, cool. Any other questions? I have some, if they're not, people don't have any. So I would love to know, like, sort of, as we talk about, we live in Los Angeles, and there's still there in West LA and West Hollywood, there's meditation membership groups, right? You pay a monthly fee. Like, what do you all think? Like, how soon do you think these types of meditation membership places will pop up in cities like Denver or Des Moines, Iowa, where I grew up, or, places that aren't just, LA, New York, and San Francisco?
I feel like it's going to follow the curve of what kind of yoga did, you know. I think it's going to branch out beyond Los Angeles. It already has started, following a bunch of other sound guided meditation practitioners around the states that are really bringing this work to a lot of people. And again, I think people are finding those kinds of things and using that to build upon their practice and going into meditating on their own. So how much time? I think you're going to see a lot of movement, especially with what's going on right now. I think you're going to start to see a lot of movement towards that as soon as we can all kind of like be able to leave our respective homes.
Yeah.
But even float tanks, as I mean, I love talking about those because they're amazing. Those are starting to pop up all over the country. And you even have athletes that are doing those kinds of things, like Steph Curry is a huge advocate of floating. And so you start to have, and then in the NBA, Michael Jordan, Phil Jackson, LeBron James, like all of these guys talk about meditation in their practice. And so as soon as these kinds of folks that are influencers start talking about it a little more openly and how it's really affected their life in a positive way, it will spread. It's just going to depend on how long.
Yeah, I went to Kobe Bryant and Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan. They used this. Phil Jackson brought in this meditation coach to all the teams he coached from the Lakers and the Bulls. George, I forget his last name, and he was awesome. I heard him speak, and they called it more mindfulness, I think is how they framed it to the players. And it really helped them focus. And you think about like kind of the Zen warrior, the Phil Jackson mentality, you could see how focused these people were. And he said that he never coached these players to compete against the other teams. So you never were playing against the Detroit Pistons. If you were the Bulls, you were competing against yourself. And that was, like, I thought, a profound way of looking at, competition in life. Like, you don't have to be a winner or a loser because you're not trying to make the other person lose. You're just competing with who you are.
Yeah. You said it right there. Like, you're learning how to sort of like make yourself better. Right. by using that technique, that strategy. Here you have superior athletes that are using it as an edge in their field, right, in their sport. What I often say is, why can't you use it and get an edge in whatever you're trying to do in life, right? Because you will gain an edge by doing this. It makes you more focused. It makes you feel better about yourself. I mean, it has so many positive benefits to it. So again, anything that any of Megan, Shanilla, or myself can do to bring people in, to show them like, hey, like pick whatever works for you and lean into that, because it's just going to start to spread.
For sure. Yeah. We have Claire, who's from Boston. I love it. She's up in the East Coast right now after 11 o'clock hanging out with us. Thanks, Claire. She said that meditation membership groups exist in New England. And speaking of a place that needs some calmness is the Massachusetts area. There's a thread here. Shanilla was saying she's a masshole, and a bunch of massholes popped up. So it's good. We're representing with the masshole vibe.
I went to college in Boston, so I'll own that a bit.
I would love to answer the next question.
Okay.
Yeah, so the question is, what do you guys think of the more mainstream westernized aspect of meditation can dilute or be disconnected from the esoteric teachings and some of the ancient practices are rooted in? So how the Western culture or the Western modern practice kind of is kind of responsible for some of the erasure of the deeper rooted teachings. I think the other Justin was asking about it, like, and how that's going to be for the next couple of years for us, you know, as we're kind of defining this wellness space and we're kind of wellness leaders in this space. And my perspective around that is that we do have to modernize a couple of things for it to be accessible to certain groups of people. But it is always good to know where the history of what you're teaching and the cultures that use things before you. So it's best to be educated. It's good to acknowledge ancestors and tribes and cultures that use meditation, that the Vedic teachings had, the ancient texts had across all cultures, all worlds, but it's also okay to kind of adjust to how it's applicable to our modern world. So some of the things aren't applicable for us in the ways that we, as modern busy people and modern, you know, in our lifestyles, don't necessarily have access or even the concepts to be able to put some things in practice. So if we want to add some, you know, like music that's Alanis Morissette, like back in the day, they didn't have, you know, Bluetooth, so they didn't use that kind of methodology. So if we want to make a little bit of adjustment, I feel it's okay. But as long as you are somebody who's teaching, you should definitely 100% always be educated from all angles of it and continuously be on that education route.
Yeah. It's been Alanis Morissette. I just want to be clear for the record here. But aren't you you said you're a fourth generation person that's worked in sound healing. Is that right?
Yes, I'm a fourth generation person, but it's in a different way. Like nobody in my family ever played crystal bowls. So there's different healers, but I'm from Bangladesh. I grew up in Bangladesh for a very long time. And that's where a lot of my knowledge and teaching and ancestral histories are. And there's different ways that was practiced. But for me to practice those things in Los Angeles, like, you know, it would scare people. It would scare people because the culture isn't set up, the society isn't set up, the acceptance of some of the teachings isn't set up. So it's a way to kind of still hold on to the history and the lineage of different things, but also be malleable and adaptable to add new information that we have. And I think we give ourselves as wellness leaders a little bit of grace to practice and modernize a couple of different things without taking and ruining and making it so trademarkable for, you know, people to feel like it's not for them because they weren't trained in this technique or that technique and this other, you know, this lineage, that lineage. And I think it can be a barrier to entry for a lot of people who feel like, oh, I don't really know meditation because like, I don't know where to start. And that's one of my things, like when I first started doing yoga, there's like all these styles and I'm like, I don't know what all these things are. But when you go into like a yoga class, when you go to like work out, like the basics are all the same. The foundations of anything you practice in meditation, breathwork, sound bath, the concepts are all the same. It's your breath.
What's something from Bangladesh that you feel like you incorporate into your practice or your teaching, or you've modernized it that you feel like maybe wouldn't be here accepted, but you updated it somehow?
Well, it's not necessarily that I invented or modernized it myself, but definitely a lot of our communities are based on family. So there's a lot of family history and rich family closeness that I do feel that we're missing in the Western world and the way that our family structures are set up. So a lot of my work in terms of the meditations that I curate, in terms of the family work, the inner child work, the parent work, is really curated around healing some of those things that we just don't have set up in the Western culture in terms of the family structure. So yeah, I mean, I would say my upbringing around like having a huge family, having grandparents, knowing my great grandparents, like knowing them by first names and knowing everybody's, you know, like that's a different kind of information that I use. I wouldn't say it's like unique to Bangladesh per se.
No. Well, I mean, yeah, totally. Thank you. That's a great answer. So Megan, with you study with Deepak Chopra, who's, you know, definitely one of the more notable people in
I
modern.
think he has a lot of potential.
You discovered him, right? From what I understand.
I think he has some work to do, but I think he shows a lot of promise.
He's an up and comer. So what was it like, I guess, training there, and, you know, now that it's a bit more mainstream, when it was not as popular when you were starting?
Yeah, it's you know, and I really I didn't know who Deepak was when I found his center. I was completely new to this world, so it was very synchronistic that I found him and ended up there. And I've been blessed to have him as a teacher, to have the co-founder of his center, Dr. David Simon, and my other major teacher, David G, who are all just masters. But yeah, I had a very I was very privileged in that the teachers that I had access to, especially when I worked full time for Deepak, you know, were Wayne Dyer and Marianne Williamson and Eckhart Tolle and all of these amazing just masters that I kind of stumbled into having access to. So I definitely, I don't take that for granted.
Yeah. So what was that like, I guess? Because in some ways, you're like an early adopter, right? Because the people you mentioned are more notable names now, but back when you were taking from them, it was more like, I guess, coalesced and like a more niche, right? It wasn't as widely adopted.
Yeah, I mean, they were all those people I just mentioned were already like popping off in the world and majorly accredited with what they've shared, but definitely it was a more niche thing in terms of my life and the people in my life and who knew meditation and who didn't. And I feel really thankful that my family was super supportive, that the network of people that I had in my life were really supportive of me quitting my job and moving to San Diego for 3 years to learn how to meditate and do that. And yeah, you know, it's been interesting to see how mainstream society has become very much wellness oriented. I also recognize that we live in LA in quite a bubble with regard to like wellness. And there are lots of places. When I go home to New Jersey, there are lots of places that don't have, you know, pop up like acupuncture or seating and, you know, all of these things that like we have on every corner. So I think it still has a ways to go, but really to see how much it's grown just in the 12 years that I've been doing it.
Yeah, cool, for sure. And then Eric, I'm gonna give you Andres' question. Do you think that the current trend to provide meditation and wellness via the web will hold, or will everyone flock back to in-person experiences after the pandemic passes?
I'm sorry. Can you? I missed you on the middle part. Can you?
Do you think the current trend to provide meditation and wellness via the web will hold, or will everyone flock back to in-person experiences after the pandemic passes?
I think both. Because right now, since the only way for us to connect is virtually, I think that now is the opportunity to help expand the message of how impactful this work is. And then from there, when we can start to expand and leave our houses, there's some things that are just, it's not the same experience virtually. Like if you experience a sound bath in person and then experience one virtually, there's just a difference, right? Noticeable. Even I'm sure that Shanila can talk about even breathwork classes. There's just an energy in the room, you know? And so hopefully both. Hopefully virtually we'll be able to continue to expand, you know, this work and be able to show people that, you know, it can help you, you know, and even if you're not going through something now, chances are down the road, you may be going through something, depression, heartbreak, divorce, just anything. And we haven't ever really been taught the tools to deal with that. Well, this work can help you get through things, right? So whether it's a meditation with Megan, breath work with Shanila, sound bath, you know, finding something to help you get through hard times, or even just finding your path.
Yeah, cool, for sure. So we're gonna wrap up in a couple of minutes. Is Maribel says yes, she needs them vibes. It sounds like she likes to go into the in-person experiences. So we got, you know, one more question. If anyone want to leave on a good note, and also everyone, can you all just like mention your websites or where we can find you online? Eric, you want to go first? Like where can we discover
Sure.
your brand?
My brand. So I started a company called The Middle Branch, and you can find me online at www.themiddlebranch, as well as at The Middle Branch on Instagram and Facebook, all of the things.
And Megan, what about you? Where do we find your information?
So I do a lot on Instagram. So if you are on the gram, you should follow me. It's a good time. It's at Meg Monahan, and I teach. I do teach at Unplug as well. Also, I don't know if I mentioned, but I wrote a great book. I just happen to have a copy here. If anyone wants to buy a really great book, she's really pretty. She looks great on a coffee table. And my website is just my name, so you can find me there as well.
Cool. That is a beautiful book. I agree. Shanilla.
Hey, so I'll drop all this info in the chat, but you can find me on the gram at shanila.sattar. And if you're looking for mentorship on starting your wellness business, I definitely do group coaching starting in a couple weeks, next round. So you can find me at alwaysplay.org/leadership, and keep in touch. Message me, DM me, ask me questions.
Cool. And I have one final question for everyone is how are you using Instagram right now? Or, you know, are you going live with meditations? Because you make your money by going to teaching these modalities in person, and now we're all stuck quarantined in our houses. So how are you using Instagram specifically? Are you all running like live streams, or, you know, talking to people directly?
I've been doing a lot of lives. I did a live meditation today. I've been bringing like friends of mine that are amazing teachers on to just have kind of high vibe conversations. Because again, I think one of the things that I'm so thankful for now is that I have access to people that can mirror back like strength and empowerment and positivity and hope and acknowledge fear and all of those other things. But again, in a really conscious kind of high vibe way. So I've definitely been doing more of that.
Cool. What about you, Shanilla?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of lives, and also next week I'm running a wellness series, completely free 99 on IG Live, and going live with different integrated wellness leaders in nutrition, physical health, mental health, emotional wellness. So there's therapists, doctors, and meditators, a lot of different types of people who are going to come and share a little bit of a workshop. So it's a nice time to kind of just tune in, get a little information, but also feel like you're connected and included. You know, this is a time where that's missing a little bit.
Yeah, it's all virtual. What about you, Eric? How are you dominating the gram?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it dominating, Ryan, but I'm just I'm just working on creating content right now, because what I do is so powerful in person. Trying to figure out a way to give it the best experience that I can virtually is really what I'm working on.
Cool. Well, that's it. Any last questions from the group? If not, we'll be sending a video of this tomorrow to everyone as a thank you. So everyone that couldn't make it tonight and everyone who participated, give yourselves a round of applause. All these people in the comments from Boston, all over LA. We had Boyle Heights, Agora Hills, someone in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Las Vegas, Santa Monica, Hollywood, Fullerton. You all were great. And I'm going to shut this down. And you can find me at getunfucked.com. It redirects to my podcast, which is Unfucked. Tala and Claire say thank you for this. Yeah, and I'll do another one of these next month, and I have another one booked for May. So we'll be doing a series, and I want you to follow all these great people that participated tonight on Instagram, support them, see them in person, buy their books, download their series, and let's all keep in touch. So thank you all. Take it easy.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Michelle.